Yeah, it's the lockdown of the, and again, I get it from their perspective. I just don't get it as an industry, um, or just fly in the wall. There was another technology. I don't know if you saw. Did you see Fire M
I
by
did
L?
not see Fire M.
So it's a small. They're I might be getting their name wrong. I'm trying to look them up right now. But a guy used to work for Davis Elmer, um, or it's LVX. I'm ruining this. So LVX Global, maybe it is. Um, anyway, they have a gateway, in a gateway essentially connected to the internet that
Yep.
hooks up to any. I don't know about any, but it's a wide variety of fire alarm panels.
Hmm.
So you're not stuck with um, having to have that proprietary nature of it. Now it's getting around what shouldn't be there in the first place, I don't think. But at least there's product coming to the market, and I believe NFPA 72 is going to start making it a little bit more open in some of the code as it moves down the line.
Hmm.
At least what I've heard from different people. But yeah, it was interesting being able to gain access. Maybe not to gain access, but to gain seeing what troubles and supervisories are going off from a fire alarm panel, um, without being a direct distributor of that panel.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that those type of plugins make a lot of sense because again, those bigger contractors can't be in all buildings at all times, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yep.
you have to create a pathway for that next tier to be able to service those accounts and help drive compliance and help drive repairs and deficiencies. Make sure those systems are operable. I also think that NFPA 915 is also going to set the tone for some of these new technologies like LVX. I'm on their website as well, and FireM, because as the code is in development now, those devices to plug in do not have to be UL listed. AHJ has to make the approval, right? Right. So that this platform starts to open the market or the gateway, if you will,
Well,
the doorway for that.
if it's so I think the clarification there for other listeners out there. So it doesn't need to be UL listed if it's an if there's any testing component,
Mm.
like on the sprinkler, if you're operating a valve,
Yep.
if you're doing anything else, you need to have a listing. But if you're just getting data from an inspection, or just data from a piping system or a network or whatever, then you don't need a listing.
Got
Right. And,
it.
and that's
Yeah.
in 25 and 72. But NFPA is kind of like it's being pointed to if there's remote inspection, because it's already in 72 and 25, and soon to be at probably 2001. And I don't know if 17A or 17 is going that way, but it probably will. At least referring to 915. So if you are doing a remote inspection, but you're right with the AHJ. The AHJ is going to have to allow it, and yeah, I think there's going to be have to some education there to the AHJ about it. But it's similar to all the other NFPA standards.
Yeah.
So um, exciting to have that come out in 2023, I believe.
Yep. Yeah. And I'm glad to see LVX doing what they're doing because again, we need somebody to try to open up those proprietary systems.
Yeah, exactly. Come on. Let's see. Got some notes here. Anything else? Codes and standards. There was some stuff on NFPA 25 that was voted on. Nothing too crazy. Concealed sprinkler head inspection. That was a bit my biggest takeaway from that, at least. Did you see anything else code wise?
Nothing. I know 915 wasn't up for any vote. It's still wrapping up discussions, right? On 915.
Yeah.
So that part's fine. 855 was up for a vote, but I didn't read any details specific to what was voted on specific to 855. But I thought there was some voting on 855, which for those who don't know what it is, that's energy storage systems.
Yep.
And so that they not necessarily get caught up in the details of the code, but 855 and what's going on with ESS. Almost every person I talk to that's on the clean agent side,
Yeah.
and watches what's going on with lithium ion and detection, I should say, is watching what happens with 855. So.
Oh yeah. That's I mean, I know there's been a ton of fires there, or not ton, but there's been quite a few fires there in the last few years. So
Yeah, it's and unfortunately, municipalities don't know how to deal with it because they don't have the resources. I know that there was a fire recently in Chandler, Arizona. I learned this from the NFPA Conference. Paul Hayes, who's also on 855, gave a presentation at NFPA specific to 855 and talked about the Chandler, Arizona fire, where they could not put the fire out, but they had to subdue it because it's a warehouse, and above the warehouse are power lines, high voltage lines. They couldn't let it burn. So over 3 days, they dropped 2 or 3 million gallons of water into the building
in Arizona.
And destroyed the building. So, so it's tough because I think the fire service is trying to figure out how do we fight these things, and there isn't technology out there with how to manage it,
how to suppress it. Yeah,
how to suppress it. So
yeah, it's got to be detection.
It has to be detection. All right. I saw a video online earlier this week where there's a Tesla car fire, and a municipality simply just took a bulldozer and dumped sand on it.
Oh my gosh!
Let it burn on the side of the road. The sand put the fire out. But
did there you go?
Yeah. Right.
Class D. Those extinguishers. You just dump the
exactly
magnesium, whatever.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I want to get your to at least talk about it. I know this is only limited to one state. I think I talked briefly about it a few weeks ago, but recently the state of Louisiana and the state fire marshal got a new legislation passed in the state that's creating an environment to move off of inspection tags on fire equipment and over to QR codes. Mm-hmm. Are you familiar with that?
For just extinguishers or everything?
Everything, alarm, sprinkler, and extinguishers.
Yeah, I know about it. I've been trying to follow it. Obviously, we're heavy with the compliance software platforms, and we have some really fun stuff coming down the line with that. Hopefully, being released soon. But because it's being sold to the AHJ, right? Which it provides them a big value because they're not having to send out inspectors to all these systems. They're getting the data from the building owner / usually the service provider, right? But I don't know too many details about Louisiana, and I know Louisiana is very well versed with fire protection, and they have got a good state fire marshal's office. So they're probably looking forward now. QR code. So instead of a fire extinguisher tag, it's a QR code sticker that's on there. Interesting.
Yes. Yeah. And so in state of Louisiana, you've got a 3-color code system: green for compliant, yellow for suggested deficiency, and then red for truly deficient. All right. And so they're moving away from those types of tags to a QR code. So now the state, I'm not sure how far it's going to go, but they have the ability to then control, the inspection form itself. And then as that form is then uploaded to the state's website, which is managed by one of these third-party, reporting platforms.
Yep.
It creates an environment now the state fire marshal can truly see deficiencies and where things are at. How are these systems being inspected? What's the schedule, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and all through a QR code. So the fire protection inspector, or the fire protection contractor, is pinging that QR code. And here's the form I need to fill out. The state fire marshal shows up to look at it. Boom, he's pulling it up. Now he sees it from his perspective.
Right.
So it's interesting, and again, it just passed in the state legislature, I think at some point in May, and it is being developed for implementation here.
Interesting.
Probably I think it's going to be early next year.
Wow. Yeah, I'd be interested. Yeah, that's kind of going one beyond what Compliance Engine and them are doing, because it's pretty, you upload, manually upload the form and the deficiencies, which provides great value. Yeah. It's also a big hindrance in a lot of other circumstances. But if It'd be interesting. They're going to the asset level now, and that's great. I'd be intrigued to see how it rolls out, and and I think fire alarm and sprinkler is one thing, but like extinguisher, I don't know. Those guys don't move too quick. So um, on technology,
I,
they move.
yeah. I at the end of the day, the state of Louisiana, like you said earlier, has a very strong state fire marshal's office.
Yes.
And if there's a state that I can see trying to make this work, it is a state that has that type of support.
Yeah, I like what they're doing. I mean, if they can improve on that compliance piece, from an AHJ's perspective, go for it, right?
Yep.
It's all about the rollout though, and I feel like if they can roll it out, don't just toss somebody out and tell them to do it. You got to have all the stakeholders involved in the process,
Absolutely.
which they're probably doing, and I've heard this a few times of them doing it. So
I know they there were advisory board meetings and there were committee meetings, and a number of the contractors had an opportunity to sit at the table and weigh in on their perspective of pros and cons about the solution.
Yep.
Obviously, at the end of the day, not everyone was happy about it, but it passed.
Wow.
And so it's coming. So to your point,
Good.
Let's see what it looks like in action over the next next couple of years.
No, it's good, and I like the state level push instead of town by town, city by city. Just do it. It just makes it so much easier as an industry if we can. There's never going to be there's national standards, but then it gets so jurisdictional beyond the states. It's and on the water and backflow side, it's crazy how many different backflow an annual inspection backflow form. There are probably close to 1,000 in the U.S. that you have to. It's ridiculous, and it's not like that. You're not making that much money off of backflow, and you have 1,000 different backflow forms to manage, and they're changing every 3 years. It's crazy.
It's an opportunity for the Backflow Association to figure out what that looks like.
Good luck. Good luck. Good luck. Good luck, Syncta. Syncta's kind of a quasi competitor of ours on the backflow side. I'm like, man, I don't know how they do it. But Watts bought them a few years ago. Speaking of buying it, you're big on the consolidation side. What have you? What did you gather anything from NFPA on M&A and what's happening?
Well, just like any other conference we go to in the industry, there's always chatter about consolidation across the market. NFPA is not a heavy contractor event. They're there, but I think it's the quality of the contractors and not just sheer numbers of contractors that come to NFPA. So yes, you saw some of the big, I'll call them notable contractor platforms. They were there. Talked to some of those folks, and it was really good to see them in attendance, walking the floor, talking to vendors, talking to engineering firms, and just really keeping their pulse on what's going on in the industry. I also recognize some of the PE firms, the not the bankers, but the folks that are running plays in fire, really trying to take a broader look at the industry. So some of those firms were there as well. But I did pick up, some of the manufacturers now, they've been quiet with regard to the buy sell cycle of consolidation. I mean, contractors, we've got deals go down every month.
Yeah.
But in the manufacturing space, I'm starting to pick up, some indicators that, there's some moving parts and pieces in that side. And we haven't seen that in a long time with regard to, manufacturers coming together or somebody else coming into space to acquire a manufacturer. So that's going to be interesting to see and how that shakes out. Most of those are publicly traded companies, so very tight-lipped on how those things develop. But we'll be on the receiving end when it truly comes out.
Sure.
At the end of the day, all of it highlights the fact that, and I said it earlier, the industry is still really strong. We're still growing consistently between 6 and 8% year over year. You look at, the new markets that are developing, the new technology that's coming into those new markets, even with consolidation, of these bigger platforms, and I think you and I've talked about this before. Company A goes into a major metro market, let's pick Atlanta or Chicago, and buy somebody. Within a year, boom, 2 or 3 new contractors pop up.
Oh yeah.
Right. Yeah. And for one acquisition, boom, you have 3 new competitors.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, shows you how healthy the market is. And I think that's been our history over the last 35 years. And that will continue.
Yep.
And that's the growth, or the churn, if you will, not the growth, the churn that is healthy for us. Because like I said earlier on, in our space, bigger doesn't necessarily mean you're the best.
Yep.
Right. At the end of the day, our industry truly operates at the regional level and the local level.
Yep.
Right. And it's those companies that I continue to see really take care of the customers, really stay close to how compliance is going to be done, good, tight processes, and sustainable business models. Ultimately, they get acquired.
Right.
And so here comes the next one behind it. So
right.
That's the turnover that we need.
So there's been a lot of, last year was heavy acquisition, right? So
absolutely.
This year, it's been okay, but I have seen a bunch of new startup companies come out, and you're right, with labor being even the way it is, I think that you're going to continue to see that. So as acquisition kind of ticks down because of interest rates, and I don't know if it's the interest rates, or I don't think it'll be as strong as last year. I think that's almost like a peak, right?
2021 was the strongest year ever for deals in fire protection.
Wow.
Right. As it relates to how just pure cash moving through the system.
Oh, dollars. Wow.
Okay. Dollars. Right. So yes, last year was the peak. This year will not be at last year's 2021 level, but I might, based on reading between the tea leaves and how I look at the market, I do think we're going to be back to where we were probably 2018, 2019, which is still very, very strong.
Yeah, very strong.
All right. And so, but yes, you're right. It's going to continue to be these smaller firms that, 10 years ago, when somebody came in their market in Charlotte and bought the company they work for, 3 companies started. Well, guess what? Those 3 companies today are $10 to $15 million in revenue, and 15, 20% EBITDA, and they're looking for a partner.
Yeah.
And so that's the churn. You said that, on the software side, you get more phone calls in a market after somebody's made an acquisition because someone needs some software, right? So that's number one. I was talking to an insurance carrier in the fire protection space in the state of Florida last week, and he said the same thing. He goes, I've lost big customers, but I've picked up more business of small customers.
Wow.
So he goes, my business is growing. I just have to work a little bit harder to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So, again, at the end of the day, it shows you how strong our industry is. And, as even to your point, yes, money's going to get a little tighter with interest rates. Whether or not we actually end up in a recession, it's going to influence behavior, both on the buy side and the sell side. But at the end of the day, it's still going to be strong.
The great part about the fire protection industry, and that 6 to 8% is a lot of it's on new building, right? A lot of that's on new installation.
Yep.
But it's a very recession resistant. It's proved, multiple times. It's very recession resistant. It's also a pandemic resistant industry, and it's that slow growth. Or it's not even slow. It's decent. It's decent growth every year. It's just you got to ride the waves of the building industry, right?
Right, but I mean, to your point, right? So, Boston, I think that counted 12 cranes in the air.
Yeah.
I mean, tons of construction in Boston, but you go to Chicago, not so much.
No.
Right. I live in the South. You go to Atlanta, there's got to be 15 or 20 cranes in the air in Atlanta. Yeah. And so, to your point, you might see some pockets where the development is slow or not visible. Still happening. Maybe it's a retrofit and not a rebuild or a new build.
Right.
But that new construction is going on somewhere in the United States.
Yeah.
It might be in Phoenix, it might be in Denver, it might be in Austin, Texas, it might be in Atlanta, it might be in Charlotte, it might be in Miami, but it's happening somewhere. And so just because you don't see those cranes in, Chicago or Milwaukee, drive to the beach.
Yeah, drive south.
Drive south. It's happening. I mean, I live in the South, and I mean, everywhere I go, more and more construction. A lot of it's residential condos and
Yep.
and tourism stuff. But we'll take it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anything else from NFPA? Any other big? It was just great to be there, and the weather was awesome as well. And just we had that first day we had a lot of traffic internationally, which was great to see with everything going on with travel restrictions and all that. I saw a lot of Latin America, saw a lot of Middle East, saw a lot
Yep.
of Canada. I think Canada's just ready to go out and party. They've been locked up for for a while. I want to get up there and go to one of their parties because they're always fun.
Yes. No, I agree. I think that I did run into a lot of people from Europe, and Netherlands, UK, Germany. That was really good to see. Again, and they're all looking for the same thing. We have the same hazards. We've got the same issues, and we need to make this trip every year to really understand, how do we solve for those problems. I had breakfast one morning on Wednesday morning with some guys from Australia, just talking about what's going on in the Australia market. And they look forward to NFPA every year because that's how they understand what's going on in the market. Even though NFPA is very centric to the United States and I'll say North America with regard to codes and standards and influence, all those manufacturers are shipping material and equipment around the world.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And Australia has the same hazards that we do here in the States.
Yep.
So, it was really interesting to hear their perspective about, what they're trying to tackle.
No, it's interesting. I met one of our competitors actually from Australia came over and chatted with me, and it was refreshing. They were really nice, but it was a cool business model, and they have different challenges over in Australia, and their code system seems a little better. But you're right, they have to get the material from those U.S. manufacturers essentially.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but no, overall, like I said at the beginning, just, really good show. If you look at the circuit, between we started the conference season in February with the FSSA, Fire Suppression Systems Association in Florida, 3 NAFEDs. I didn't do all 3. I did 2, 2 NAFEDs, and then NFPA, and all of them highlighted the fact that everyone was really excited to be together. The strength of the industry doesn't matter if you're a special hazard contractor, manufacturing, or fire extinguisher distributor, all doing very, very well. I'm looking forward to the AFSA event in October in Las Vegas, and I expect the same tone, if you will, about the optimism of the space. And just really happy that we're back in person.
Yeah, it's great, and there's some good shows coming up, and you got AFSA. I don't think I'll be there, but I'll be at NFSA speaking, and then SFPE should be decent. I won't be there, and then some of the local. You're going to the Florida Fire Equipment.
Yeah, the Florida Fire Equipment Dealers Association meeting here at the end of July.
It's in July. Okay.
Yep. It's in Orlando.
Orlando in July. Come on.
The locals in Florida have no problem going, and I live in Alabama.
Nobody's. Yeah.
It's either 95 and humid here or 95 and humid in Orlando. So the same. Looking forward to that conference. I went last year for the first time. I heard so much about it back to my days at Ansel, and it's just a tight-knit group of folks that obviously very passionate about the fire equipment business, and if my numbers are right, the state of Florida alone has 400 fire extinguisher distributors.
Wow.
Registered in the state association. So that's bigger than most states.
Yes.
Across the country. So so a good tight-knit group, and looking forward to the conference and reconnect with some of those folks down there as well.
Yeah, it's going to be I think Yeah, next the fall. Usually the summer's a little break other than this show, but yeah, it's good to see that the NFPA have a good time and they're rolling out stuff themselves. NFPA, I'm interested to see where they're kind of heading as an organization and nonprofit. And yeah, we'll have to do this. I guess is it an annual thing here, John? We'll have to do some. We'll have to do it more often. Once this recession hits us in a few months or the fall, stuff might change.
We won't be able to travel anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously, Drew, I always look forward to the opportunity to do this with you and just share perspectives of the industry and what we see and share that with your followers and subscribers and I remember being at NAFED in Indianapolis and someone came up to me and said, "When are you guys doing your next podcast?"
That's funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
So hopefully we gave them some information that was worthwhile and it was a good listen for them and look forward to the next opportunity.
Yeah. Thanks again. You want to give a plug where we can find it? You want to give Nolan's plug again? Feel free.
Yeah. So Nolan, my son, Nolan Mackey, the company that he's standing up or starting right now is called Active Resume, and it's ACTIVE resume.com. So take a look at the website and what it's all about. It's a startup, so as Drew knows, when you're bootstrapped, friends and family come in and help wherever you can, and
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere. And he's given this a good shot, and he's been well received. He's met with a number of people across the space, and they're anxious to see what he can develop. So check out Nolan's website, and then for myself and my business. I'm on LinkedIn, John Mackey, and then my website is Mackey Group LLC.com. And we're dropping monthly blogs. I'm working on my blog for June right now. Once the link for this podcast is up, I'll push that out to the website and LinkedIn as well, just like Drew will do the same.
Yep.
Just talks about my company and what we do, and at the end of the day, just doing what I can to help with the growth and sustainability of the fire protection space.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. It's always fun to have you on and talk industry stuff. So
Thanks, man.
Thanks. Yeah.